Yo, welcome boys and girls to the European Championships 2024 in Pamplona, Spain, where 16 of the best European cubers will battle for this trophy, which will crown the winner the European champion for the coming 2 years. Now, it's not gonna be easy because we're gonna see a lot of hardship, we're gonna see a lot of cuteness, but we're most of all gonna see a lot of fast cubing. First off, we're gonna have Daniel Rush, who's going to go against Kyle Santucci. Now, Daniel Rush is from South Africa. You might be wondering, wait, that is not Europe. Well, first off, we're gonna have 4 non-European contestants who can rank in the competition but not go for the European title. 7.7 is not a great start, but now we have Kyle Santucci from Canada, who has had a sub-6 official average, and he is known to have a really satisfying turn style. Like, look at his last layer in slow motion. This is pure perfection. So Kyle starting off with a sub-6 solve, but we're going back to Daniel Rush right now to see if he can get a better time than 7.7, which he does, 6.17. Look at this A-perm. Pretty satisfying. Let's go on to Kyle now. If he can count the 5.9, that would mean it's a really good average because the worst and the fastest time do not count in these averages. That's a 7, which isn't great, but look at that finish. That is a really cool finish. Back to Daniel, 6.17, 7.7. He doesn't want to count to 7.7. But we do see some lockups there. And that is an 8.66. That is not good because now he has a counting 7.7. Yes, let's look at that lockup in slow motion. Sorry, Daniel. Now back to Kyle. See if he can count the 5.9 because that would mean he gets a really good average. That F2L is insane. Onto ZBLL at 4 seconds, but some small catches, 6.3, which is still really good. Now Daniel Rush has a counting 7.7 right now, which means he's probably not gonna end high up in the list today, but let's just see if he can redeem his average with, for example, a 6.6. That is really good. Kyle right here can still get an insane average if he just manages to get good times on the last 2 souls, which he's definitely gonna be able to do on solve number 4 because that's a 6.0 and he's not even happy with that. But that G-perm, man, look at that. That is just pure perfection. So you can see right now for Daniel, his best possible average is 6.8. His worst is 7.7. So let's see if he manages to get his best possible average. He's not gonna do that. His last solve made it so he got a 7.35 average, which puts him right behind Kyle. But talking about Kyle, he has a best possible average of 6.11, which is really good. It's close to sub 6. And oh no, he made a mistake. He did 2 PLLs there. Let's take a better look at that. So right here he got an F-perm, but he had mistaken it for a U-perm, which he did, and then it resulted in a J-perm, which probably cost him a second. But next up we have Toby Seufert from Australia, who's going to go against Patrick Ponce from the United States of America. He's so chill. He's like, what's up, my dude? Now, Toby got a 6.43 average in the semifinals, which is so good because his personal record average is 6.37, so that is a really good average for him. I'm pretty sure he's really happy to be on the stage today. And Toby is on to a great start. He gets some small catches, but still 6.7. Whoa, camera's going bonkers over here. And that's probably because the next contestant is Patrick Ponce. And does he need an introduction? No, he doesn't. He's the ex-world record holder. And let me just show you, bam, 5.2. The man is a legend. You know you're good when you don't even react to a 5.2 solve. Now, Toby and Patrick are the last non-European contestants, so they're gonna set a bar for the rest. Now, that was a fancy OLL into PLL, and he's swiping this solve left. He's not happy with it. No match. Now, guys, did you know that Patrick Ponce actually won the last European Championships? But once again, he's from the United States, so he cannot be a European champion. And his second solve is once again gonna be a good solve, 6.4. He's not quite as good as his first solve, but look at this ZB, guys. ZBLL has the most algorithms out of any Alex sets, but we'll see so many people use it. Now, on to Toby right here. He has a counting 6.7, which he's not gonna be too happy with, so let's see if he can redeem himself. With a 6.7, kind of consistent, still sub 7 is still a good average. Like nowadays, we set the bar so high, so we just have to appreciate these guys for solving the cube in just 6 seconds. But for Patrick, 6 seconds is not even good because he's getting a 6.2 right now, and look at that frustration. He's not happy with that at all. Can we get a slow motion shot of that? Yes, we can. 6.2, and that reaction just shows how good the cubers are nowadays. Let's see if Toby can actually impress us with his 4th solve, and that's gonna be a good solve into H-perm 6.4. Now for Patrick, anything can still happen because he started off with a 5.2. If he can count that time, that would mean an insane average. But that's not gonna happen this solve because he made a mistake. And he gets an 8.29. And yeah, he's kind of embarrassed about that. He's like, yeah, guys, just please don't look at me. Now, Toby's worst and best possible averages aren't that far apart. So it doesn't really matter too much what he gets right now. But if he can end off in a good way, which he did, he gets his best possible average, 6.6, which puts him in second place right now. But all eyes on this man right here. His best possible average is sub 6. But his worst possible average is 6.9, so this solve right here is so important. But it looks like he lost control of his cube over there, which resulted in a 6.7, which is 100 of a second slower than Kyle's 6.46 average. So this is the bar that the non-European competitors set for the European competitors, which is gonna start right now with this man right here, Eden Robinson from Switzerland versus Valerio Locatelli from Italy. Now, Eden is gonna be the first person in the finals who's using a different method than the traditional CFOP method, which is the RU method. And that also cost him to start off with the DNF. 6.9. Whoa, camera, chill down. Because now we have Valerio Locatelli from Italy. I'm sorry guys, I did that once again. Now Valerio has both the national record single and average from Italy, and he's starting off with a strong 6.3 second solve. Now Eden got a 7.08 average during the semifinals, which gave him the 20th position, and because there's 20 people here today, that makes him a lucky man. Let's just see if he can actually start with an actual time today, which he does, 6.3. That's a pretty good time, dude. Now, Valerio got a 7.06 average at the semifinals, which gave him 19th position. But I'm pretty sure he's aiming higher today, and he might actually be able to do that because his second solve is a 6.4, which is a counting solve, and that's a good start for the average. Now, Eden needs to be careful right here because he started off with a DNF solve, and you do not want to have a DNF counting. So let's just... That was so close, my man. That was a 7.3, but can we get slow motion of that? If that middle layer was slightly more misaligned, he would have a DNF average, which is pretty funny. But now back to Valerio. He started off pretty strong, 6.3, 6.4, really consistent. If he can keep it that way, which he... that's an E-perm. Probably the worst PLL of all. 7.1 is still a decent time. But now, Eden right here has a counting 7.3, but also a 6.3 in there. So if he can count that time, he can still get a good average. 7.05, that's not horrible. That's better than a DNF at least. But the next two souls for Valerio are gonna be really important because he started off really strong. He doesn't want to count the 7.1. And he got to PLL at 5 seconds, but he got a corner twist. He's not gonna be happy with that at all. You can see here, PLL, 5 seconds. And right here you can see with his ring finger, he twisted the corner right there and he had to fix it. Otherwise, he would have a DNF solve. But it didn't really matter because 7.7 was his slowest solve anyways. Now, Eden still has a big gap between his best possible average, 6.9, and his worst possible average, which is infinity. So let's see. He gets something pretty close to his best possible average, 7.3, which currently puts him in the 4th position. But Valerio's best possible average is 6.6, which could have been better if it weren't for the corner twist. But let's not think about that right now. Let's just see how he does. And the 6.15 is actually a really good solve, which gives him his best possible average, which makes Valerio currently the fastest European. But that doesn't really matter because we have so many people still to battle. Starting off with James Alonso from the United Kingdom versus Kevin Gerhardt from Germany, who has a lot of fans, as you will see in a second. Now, James Alonso right here, he's a pretty young kid, but he has the national record average from the United Kingdom with a 6.17 average, so he has a lot of potential. Let's see how he starts off. Pretty strong with a 6.6. Now, Kevin is kind of an icon in the cubing community, and I had to check his profile. He has 229 gold medals, so he has won a lot of stuff, but he also has a world record on his name. Now, which world record that is, I'm gonna share with you in a second. He's starting off pretty bad. Now, what's really surprising to me is just how calm James Alonso can stay with such a big audience, because you cannot see that right now, but there's thousands of people watching him in real time. Second solve, 7.6. Not too happy with that. Now, Kevin here needs to be really careful because he started off with a pretty bad solve, 8.6. You do not want to count that. So we're gonna see extra cautious solving from him right now, and which he doesn't display because... Sorry, my camera is kind of going insane right here, but that was a +2 solve. Yeah, he had some German fans in front of me. Sorry for them for waving their flags. But back onto James Alonso right here, who's currently finishing off his solve with a ZBLL algorithm, but the time isn't that great, 7.31. He's not too happy with that. Onto Kevin right now, and to get back to the world record, in 2017 he got the 2x2 world record average. which was 1.41 seconds back then, but his third solve is 7.28 seconds. Camera going bonkers. And Kevin is just not happy with that. He can do so much more, and he knows it. James Alonso, little guy, show us what you're made of. Let's see what you can bring to the table. And that was a PLL skip, 5.91. Being lucky isn't a crime. Talking about luck, Kevin needs some luck right here, because he can still get a counting 3-second solve and win European Championships. But that's not gonna happen because he made a small mistake over here. But still a 6.2 solve, which is really good, so I have to check the slow motion footage to see what went wrong. So here we can see doing his last pair, then taking out this pair. He probably thought of a different case, then he turned the cube around to actually finish off the easy ZB, so he made a small mistake there. But now I'm really rooting for my boy James Alonso right here. His best possible average is 6.61, which would currently put him in the first place of the European contestants, but he loses control of his cube there for just a bare second. Let's take a look at that in slow motion. I'm sorry, I know if you're watching this, you're like, oh, that is painful, please don't show it to me, but the viewers have to see this. Now, Kevin's average is all over the place. We have a 6, 7, 8, and 9 second solve. Let's see if he can add a 5 to that, but that will not happen because he got a 7.05. Still a legend though. So James currently second, Kevin currently last. But spoiler, we're gonna see way better averages and also worse averages than we currently have in the list. And the next duo is gonna be Alwin Federsel from Austria, who's going to go against Timofei Tarasenko from Russia, who has shown to be a legend already by doing so well in other events. Now, Alwin doesn't only have both 3x3 national records, he also has national records in 2x2 and in pyramid, so he's a really talented guy. Starting off pretty lucky, not happy with that, a 9.12. Now, I told you Timofei is already a legend, and not only does he have the national record average 3x3 from his country, he also podiumed in 4x4, 5x5, 6x6 and Mega Mix this weekend, and he's starting off really strong with a 5.55. And looking at his reaction, he's not even too happy with that, so maybe he has more for us. But back to Alwin, he started off with a pretty bad solve, 9.12. I mean, that would be a pretty good time for me, but for him, definitely not. And oh, he got an 8.8. He's not happy with that because that means his average is pretty much already ruined. But Timofei right here, he can still show us a lot, because if he somehow gets to count at 5.5, that would be an incredible average. And he doesn't count it, but he still gets at 5.7. So that is a counting time, a counting sub 6 to start the average, which is really, really good. But Alwin right here wasn't off to such a great start, because looking at his third solve right here, he's making a bunch of mistakes, which led him to even having to fix F2L during the last layer, and resulting in the worst time of this finals. But he's taking it like a champ and can just laugh it off, because, you know, it's still finals, a lot of people watching, anything can happen. But the most important thing that can happen right now is Timofei getting in good time, because counting a 5.7 and having a 5.5 means that these souls right here can be super important. He gets to last layer really brilliantly, 6.11. It's not a sub 6, but it's still a really good time, which already gives him the best start out of anyone who competed today. But who's not having such a good start is Alwin right here. But let's just see if he can prove how fast he is with one of the next two souls. 7.54, it's a good time, but it's not good enough for the finals at the European Championships. Now, Timofei over here, his fourth solve is gonna be super, super important. Like, if he doesn't mess up right now, which he is sadly enough doing, because that's a 7.87 second solve, his worst solve of the average. What actually happened during this solve is that Timofei went for a yellow cross, but noticed during F2L that, uh-oh, I made a mistake, and he had to fix his cross. Good thing for Timofei though is that you can mess up one solve. Sadly enough for Alwin, you really want to keep it to just one mistake, because once you have multiple, your average is already ruined. But it doesn't really matter, and he can laugh it off like a real champ would. Guys, give some respect to Alwin in the comments. But right now might be the most important solve of the entire finals, because if Timofei gets a good solve right now, which he is about to do, but sadly enough an E-perm, but still a 6.0 solve, which means a sub 6 average, which is insane. That was an incredible performance by Timofei. Just look at his last solve. You can see his F2L right here. He got to OLL the last layer at 2.99 seconds. That's a sub 3 F2L. Sadly enough, he got unlucky with an E-perm, but a 5.9 average might be good enough to win this competition. On to the next two contestants. Israel's best cuber Ben Baron versus Norway's best cuber Kim Roger Haraldsen. Now, Ben Baron isn't just good at 3x3, he has national records in all sorts of events, even blindfolded, but let's just see how he starts off with a 6.4 pretty strong performance. But the same can be said about Kim Roger, because he also has national records besides 3x3. He has a lot of experience because today is his 69th competition, starting off with a scary number. Now, if you've been watching the finals all the way till here, you'll notice that the scrambles of this competition aren't great. We haven't seen any crazy times yet. Also, 6.22 is great, but not crazy. Maybe something will happen soon that might change that. Let's see if Kim Roger has something for us. He's starting off with a 6.66, and basically if you want to have a chance at podium, we're probably gonna have to aim at a sub 6 average or a really low 6 average. But 8.55, hopefully he doesn't count that or it's out of the question. But now back to Ben Baron. He started off pretty strong with 2 low 6-second souls. His third one is a low 7-second soul, so that's not good enough. And I think this is the perfect time to tell you guys that you can go to thecubicle.com for any Speedcube related stuff and use discount code CUBID for a huge discount. Kim Roger right here, he cannot mess up otherwise. Once again, counting 8-second solve is not a good thing to do, but he got to PLL really fast, kind of locking up there, 6.3, which is still a beautiful performance. And yes, we have to look at that in slow motion. I know it hurts, but right here you can see kind of messing up. He got to PLL at 4.5. He finished at 6.3, which makes it a pretty slow PLL. Let's see, Ben Baron has an incredibly good start. OLL, that's a ZBLL! Sub 5, 4.89. He's pretty happy with that. Show us the fist, man. Come on, show it. Hey. That was the first sub 5 of the finals. Will Kim Roger be able to do that as well? Well, it seems like he's not gonna do that, but still he does a pretty nice solution. 6.4 seconds, he's pretty happy with that. But guys, look at Ben Baron's best possible average. If he would somehow get another sub 5 solve, it would mean he's first in the list. But that's not gonna happen, because right here he still got a 6.3 second solve, which puts him second place, which is still an incredible performance by Ben Baron. Congrats to him. Kim Roger right here, he wants to get a good solve, because look at that second solve, that was an 8.55. He doesn't want to count that, but that's not gonna happen. He gets a solid 6.6 second solve, which gives him a 6.57 average. So both contestants are currently in the top 3, but that's probably not gonna stay that way because we still have a lot more people, like the next duo, Richard Delacoste from Switzerland, who's going to go against my boy Twan Dullemond from the Netherlands. Now, we've seen people from a lot of countries. Richard is from Switzerland and he also has a lot of national records, 3x3, 4x4, 5x5 and so on. Starting off pretty strong with a 6.65. It's a good time, but it's not gonna be good enough. Now here we have my boy Twan Dullemond. Now look at that official average, 5.44. Twan is such a talented and smart cuber. He did make a small mistake there and he also dropped his cube. So he's gonna start off in a pretty bad way, because we can see right here that during his F2L he's doing some S moves, and usually that means that you messed up the cross, which Twan unfortunately did. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can mess up once, just make sure that you don't mess up twice. Now he has an incredible start getting to last layer at just 3 seconds and he pulls off a 6.4 second solve. Probably his last layer could have been a bit faster, but let's take a look at Twan right here. We can see the D layer move a lot, so he's probably doing some fancy stuff over there and doing OLL PLL as if it was just one step. But Twan is not happy with that. 6.7 is just not good enough for him. Now we can see Richard right here setting up a ZB case, and that is a pretty good case, 6.46, so that's 100th of a second slower than his previous time. Now back to Twan, he got a 6.7 last solve, which wasn't good enough for him, and now he's pausing just a little bit, which gives him a 6.7 once again, and he's not happy with that. He's not happy with that at all. Richard right here has been pretty consistent so far, mid 6 all the way through. Let's see what he gets on his fourth solve. Pretty good last layer, 6.56 this time. My boy has been practicing to be consistent. Now back to Twan, he really wants to prove himself because he knows he can do better than his last few souls. He gets to last layer pretty fast, and that's just a beautiful execution, 6.00. I don't think he could have done way more with that scramble. Now, I do not care what Richard gets on his last solve. I don't want it to be good. I just want it to be 6.4, 6.5. I want it to be consistent. And he does it, guys! Richard, the most consistent cuber on Earth. give him some compliments in the chat. But right now, Twan, let's see what he can do with his time so far. He could still count the 6-second solve and get a 6.48 average, which he just manages to do with a 5.74 single. Can we just appreciate what kind of stuff he's doing right here? I do not know what's going on, but that was a really cool solution. Now, Richard was really consistent, but Twan was slightly faster with a 6.48 average, which puts him in top 3 for now. Now, boys, look at this presence. This is Ianis Costin from Romania, and he's going up against Radosław Marcinek from Poland. Look at this, guys. Ianis has an official 4.07 single. That's 18th of the world. And he's also shown great potential in other events. He even podiumed for 2x2. Now his first solve, pretty solid, 6.3. He's like, okay, I'm happy with that. Hey, dab. Now Radosław over here, by the way, I had to look up how to pronounce his name. He has a 4.05 single, so that's 16th of the world. So both contestants have insane potential, but Radosław is not happy with the 7.83. Bruh, look at this. Ianis like a real G, using his spotlight to impress the ladies. But let's just see if you can impress the ladies with your second solve. Now, you will see this boy again in one of my next videos, because I did a vlog at the European Championships and we did some stuff together. So if you want to check that out, please subscribe. And also, Ianis, pretty happy with a 6.8. Now, my boy here is pretty nervous, and it's understandable, man. And I know, because I did a solve at the Nations Cup just a few days ago, and I totally failed because of all of the eyes watching my solve. But now he pulls off a 5.58. Look at this. And that ZB was executed perfectly. Look at that. That's how you cube, man. Did you see that, Ianis? He got a sub-6 solve. Can you do the same? I don't care if you're first at one-handed, Mega Minx, Spear Minx, Cube, and Square 1 in your country. I want to see a sub-6. And he just manages to do that, yes. Ianis just flexing his jawline right now. But back to the Polish kid, because last solve 5.5. If he can do something with that, that would mean an amazing average. And that's a great start. Last layer at 3.5 seconds. Just stay calm. But he's locking up on PLL 7.18. He's not going to be happy with that. And you know what that means. Locking up means we have to look at that in slow motion, and you can see right here last few turns were kind of hard. So Ianis' personal record is 6.27 average. So if he can get another sub-6 solve right now, that would mean he has the potential of actually breaking his personal record. And he got a 6.32, and he's happy with that. He's like, yeah, that's pretty close to my personal record. Now for Rado, yes, I'm just gonna call him like he's my bro. My friend Rado right here, he needs to perform well, because he has a counting 7.1. If he has another high counting solve like he just did right now, means that his average is not gonna cut it for podium. But Ianis right now can get his personal record average 6.18, but worst case it would be 6.50, which is still a really good average for him. And he's gonna get just that 7, 8, 9. But look at that smile, look at that jawline. Ianis performed really, really well. Onto Rado right now, his last solve. Let's just show us something, right? Show us something great, show us what you're made of. But you're not gonna do that right now. It's okay, Rado. You did your best. It's really nerve-wracking. You did a great job. This puts Ianis just outside the top 3. But the top 3 is gonna change soon, because we have an insanely fast matchup right now. Alexey Tsvetkov from Russia against my favorite contestant of today. Here we have Teodor Zajder from Poland. He's just 7 years old, and look at this guy. So first off, we have Alexey Tsvetkov, and he uses the Ru method. He's one of the fastest guys to use the method with an official 5.75 average. So let's see what he has in store, and he starts off pretty strong with a 6.31. Next up, Teodor, and it might look like his hands are just too small to turn the cube, but that's not true, because look how fast he turns, starting off pretty strong with a 6.35. So both guys starting off strong with a 6.3. Now, I remember Alexey from the World Championships, because he was in the finals as well. Back then he got a 7.3 average, so it would be cool to see if he actually improves today. And it seems like he's gonna do that, because he gets a 5.4. He's really happy with that. But my man Teodor right now, let's show how fast those little hands can be. And looking at this solve right now, it seems like his mind is just faster than his hands can handle. But still a 6.4. He's kinda happy with that. No way, my boy is showing his jawline. Let's go, champ. Come on, Alexey. Let's see how fast you can get this average. So if you don't know yet, Ru has a more optimal move count than the Seufert method. So even if he turns slower, it can be a really fast time. But not this one because it's an 8.12. It doesn't really matter because once again, you can mess up once. But Teodor, my man, please do not mess up. All those hands. That was a beautiful F2L. Getting to PLL at 4.4 and that's a 5.4. The entire crowd just goes berserk, including myself. Let's take a look at some slow motion footage of that. The execution is so clean that it makes me wonder that perhaps I'm just slow because I have bigger hands than Teodor has. But that is some top tier solving right there. So Alexey can potentially make this an insane average if he can work with the 5.4 second in his average and hopefully not do anything with the 8-second solve, which it seems like he's gonna do because that's a 6.12 and that's a really good potential average right now, potentially even sub 6. But my man Teodor right here is gonna make this an insane average as well. I can just feel it. By the way, guys, did you know that Teodor is the world record holder of 2x2? And he gets a 7.16 right now. He's not too happy with that, but he doesn't care. Okay, this is interesting. Alexey's best possible average is 5.96, 100th of a second slower than Timofei. So let's just see, perhaps that's a podium position. So let's see what he does on the last solve. That's pretty good. 6.34, that's a 6.26 average right now, which puts him currently at the second place. But before we move on to everyone's favorite cuber, let's just look at these insane M turns by Alexey. So Teodor's best possible average is 6.1, which potentially means second place, if he manages to pull it off. But it seems like he made a small mistake over here, so that's not gonna be his best time. In fact, it's his worst time. Now, he might not have won the competition, but he won everyone's heart. Someone please help Teodor carry his stuff. Like, his hands are tiny, he needs some help. Please, we need 10 hours of footage of just Teodor being Teodor. But before moving on to the two fastest cubers of this seed, I quickly want to talk about the sponsor of this channel. The reason I was able to go to Spain and create all of this cubing content is because of the cubicle.com. They sell anything cubing related, 3x3s, loops, timers, and so much more. If you're looking for a 3x3 cube, maybe you want to check out the YoCube 2, my favorite cube with my setup and a bunch of extras with awesome reviews. But if you end up buying anything, make sure to use discount code CUBEHEAD for a huge discount. Anyways, back to the finals, let's see what happens. And as if Poland couldn't dominate these European Championships more, first off we have Polish Olaf Kuźmiński, who managed to get second in this seed with a 5.77 average. And your number one boy doesn't need an introduction. He is the one and only Tymon Kolasinski from Poland. And the WCA was like, let's just already give him his prize money because Tymon found 20 euros on the ground. Olaf Kuźmiński, some really impressive stats there. He has an official 5.54 average, which is 18th in the world. And let's see how he starts off. With a pretty good start, some small lockups, 6.56. Sorry man, that's how it works. If you lock up, we have to look at that stuff in slow motion. That was actually not that bad. Now our boy Tymon Kolasinski with a 4.74 official average. Now if it weren't for Yihang, Tymon would be in a league of his own because he's getting all of these sub 5 averages that everyone is just expecting him to do extremely well. Let's see how he starts off with an incredible F2L. Look at that stuff, 5.7. That PLL could use some work. Can we just appreciate Olaf's hair for a second? If I had that kind of hair, I would be the happiest man on earth. But let's not talk about hair, let's talk about his solve. So he's doing wide cross right here. And it seems like it's not going too well for him. He gets a 6.5 and he's just not happy with that. That is just sadness in his eyes. Now back to Tymon for the second scramble. Now, if you've noticed, most of the good times we've seen so far came from the second scramble. So let's see if Tymon can actually find a good solution for this scramble. So starting off pretty strong, and he gets to last layer and he pulls it off with a 5.42 second solve. Now the last layer, let's take a look at that because that was some weird stuff. Okay, so basically at this point he does a pseudo slotting thing with a D2 move, goes into a OLL, sets up a ZBLL, which you can see him executing right here. So yes, Tymon is known to have these crazy solutions. So Olaf right now has two 6.5 second solves, and I've been looking at his stats and he has a lot of official sub 6 averages. So I know he was aiming for more than this, but it seems like he's pausing just a little bit over here and he gets a 6.15 and he's not happy with that at all. Imagine getting a 6.1 and not being happy. That is the life of Olaf. But now, Tymon right here, he has two great solves to start with. So if he can just pull off the next two solves, that would mean a guaranteed win. for European Championships. And his third solve, kind of lucky, but still a 6.0. He seems to be content with that. Back to Olaf now, what he doesn't know is that even though he wasn't happy with his first 3 solves, he still has a pretty good average, so if he can pull off the last 2 solves, that can still mean podium for him. This third solve is 6.7, and that officially puts him out of the question for podium. I cannot really see his eyes, but I bet he's not happy with that. Now Tymon has a pretty great start so far, but it's not in the pocket yet, because he needs to do well on his 4th solve, and if he does, then he would be in the pocket. So he got to last layer pretty fast, but kind of catching a bit, 6.4. So it's not set for Tymon just yet there. Now we have Olaf's last solve of the European Championships. His best possible average is 6.41, which is not gonna be enough for podium, and he's probably not happy with that. But let's just see if he can pull something off for his last solve right here. But once again, he messes up. And guys, look at that in slow motion. That is not just a +2. He throws the cube in the air and you can see right here it's a +2. But it's a +4 because he also touched the cube after stopping the timer. Now guys, this was a really surprising moment because Tymon hasn't won European Championships yet. If you look at his worst possible average, it's 6.1. Timofei has a 5.95 average. So it turned out that Tymon needed a 6 flat solve to win European Championships. See how he does it. Gets to PLL, really fast lockups, and he secures it with a 5.89 solve. But oh boy, those last moments were nerve-wracking. Can we look at that T-perm in slow motion? So he starts his T-perm around 4.5 seconds, and then right here, some small catches, but then bam! Just in time. So the bronze medal goes to Alexey Tsvetkov, which is a huge thing for the Ru community, so congrats to him. And it has been a great day for Russia, because in second place with the silver medal, we got Timofei, who got a brilliant 5.95 average. But your European champion, once again, we have Tymon Kolasinski, who won the competition, who won European Championships, and who got 1,000 euros. Alright guys, ciao, see you in the next one. Bye bye.